Have you ever felt anger creeping in like a silent storm, clouding your judgment before you even realize it? One moment, you're in control, calm, collected. The next, a single word, a fleeting mistake, and suddenly your peace shatters like glass. We've all been there. The regret, the frustration, the endless replaying of moments we wish we could undo. But what if anger wasn't something to suppress or fear? What if instead it could become a tool, one that sharpens your mind rather than controls it? In a world that constantly tests our patience, Stoicism offers a path, not just to silence anger, but to master it. This isn't about pretending to be unaffected, nor is it about bottling up emotions until they explode. It's about understanding anger at its core, recognizing its triggers, and transforming it into strength. The greatest minds in history, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, faced these same struggles, and yet they walked through life with a quiet, unshakable power. So how do we do the same? Stay with me. Every insight in this video is a stepping stone to mastering your emotions and reclaiming your inner fortress. By the end, you won't just manage anger, you'll own it. Let's begin. 1. How anger destroys your peace. Anger is a fire that consumes its own source before it ever touches another. It does not always come as an explosion. Sometimes it simmers quietly, eroding your peace one thought at a time. It disguises itself as power, yet in reality it strips you of control. Mark Twain captured this perfectly. Anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured. Think about it. How often have you let anger dictate your words, your actions, only to be left with regret? A sharp remark that wounds a loved one, a reckless decision made in frustration, or even the silent resentment that poisons your own mind. Anger destroys before it ever seeks justice. Seneca likened anger to a crumbling ruin. It breaks itself upon what it falls. It does not just damage those around you, it tears you apart in the process. Yet, anger is not an external enemy. It is not something imposed upon you. It is something you allow, something you feed. Epictetus warned us, any person capable of angering you becomes your master. Every time you let anger take over, you surrender control. You are no longer acting with intention, but reacting to the world like a puppet on a string. Is that the life you want? A life where your emotions, rather than your reason, dictate your path? Beyond the damage to your mind and relationships, anger takes a toll on your body. Modern science confirms what the Stoics understood long ago. Every surge of rage floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline, raising blood pressure, weakening the immune system, and exhausting the heart. It is a self-inflicted wound, a slow poison that we drink in the hope that another will suffer. But here's the truth. The moment you pause and question your anger, you reclaim power. When frustration rises, ask yourself, does this anger serve any purpose? Or is it simply pulling me further from balance? In that silent reflection, you shift from being controlled to being in control. And that is where true strength begins. 2. Mastering the spark. Identifying your triggers before they control you. Once you understand how anger erodes your peace, the next step is to trace it back to its source. Anger doesn't appear out of nowhere. It has roots, subtle and deep, often hidden beneath the surface of your expectations. A single word, A small inconvenience or an unfulfilled assumption can ignite a fire within you. But if you do not understand what fuels this fire, how can you ever hope to control it? Think back to a time when a minor comment ruined your entire day. Was it really the words themselves, or was it what you expected to hear instead? Perhaps you were hoping for appreciation but received indifference. Maybe you trusted someone to follow through, and they didn't. The Stoics teach us that anger often stems not from the actions of others, but from the rigid expectations we place upon them. When we demand that people behave a certain way, we set ourselves up for frustration. Letting go of these illusions is the key to inner freedom. Imagine a situation we've all faced. You're driving home after a long day, and suddenly someone cuts you off. Instinctively, anger surges. You honk, curse under your breath, and feel your pulse quicken. But pause for a moment. What are you really upset about? Is it the act itself, or the meaning you assign to it? Do you feel disrespected? Do you believe that others should drive with the same patience and awareness as you? This is where true mastery begins, recognizing that your suffering does not come from the external event, but from your interpretation of it. Each time anger arises, ask yourself, is this truly about the situation, or about my expectations? Will reacting with anger change anything for the better? These questions create a gap between stimulus and response, a space where reason can intervene before emotion takes control. This is the moment where you reclaim power over yourself. The Stoics relied on a simple practice in moments of rising anger: pause and breathe. Before you react, take a slow, deep breath. Let silence be your first response. If you can, step back, detach yourself from the moment, as if you were an observer watching from a distance. This mental shift gives you clarity, allowing you to see the situation objectively rather than emotionally. And in doing so, you grow. Each moment of restraint is not suppression, it is mastery. Because true strength is not found in domination over others, but in sovereignty over yourself. As Epictetus wisely said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." 3. Turning the mirror. What if you were at fault? Once you recognize what triggers your anger, the next step is to ask a harder question. Could the fault lie within me? It is easy to point fingers, to believe that others are the problem. But true wisdom comes from turning inward first. How often do we react in frustration without pausing to consider our own imperfections? Think about it. Have you ever been upset with someone for arriving late, even though you yourself have been delayed before? Have you ever judged someone for being irresponsible, forgetting the times you have overlooked commitments? Anger narrows our vision, making us see only the faults of others while turning a blind eye to our own. But the Stoics remind us that before we condemn, we must reflect. Seneca advised, "Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself the same question: haven't I made similar mistakes? If you have ever told a lie, can you truly despise another for their dishonesty? If you have ever acted selfishly, is it fair to lash out at someone for doing the same?" This perspective does not excuse wrongdoing. It simply replaces rage with understanding. Picture a father scolding his child for neglecting their homework. Frustrated, he calls them lazy, irresponsible, but if he stops for just a moment, he may recall his own childhood, times when he too struggled with schoolwork, not out of defiance, but out of fatigue, distraction, or a need for guidance. This shift in awareness doesn't erase discipline, but it replaces anger with patience, turning a moment of conflict into one of connection. Now, imagine you're at work. An employee makes a careless mistake, sending the wrong email, missing a deadline. Your instinct is frustration. But before you react, ask yourself, have I never made a mistake? In your lowest moments, did you wish for harshness or for understanding? Fear only breeds more errors, but patience turns mistakes into lessons. None of us are perfect, and neither are those around us. But imperfection is not a flaw, it is an opportunity, a chance to foster deeper understanding, to replace judgment with wisdom. Stoicism does not demand blind forgiveness. It calls for self-examination before condemnation. Before reacting in anger, ask yourself, if I were the one who made the mistake, what would I hope to receive from others? The answer to that question may be the key to mastering not only your anger, but also your relationships, your peace, and ultimately yourself. Thank you for being part of today's discussion. Now, I have a question for you. Have you ever caught yourself reacting in anger, only to realize later that you've made the same mistake before? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this is something you're working on, comment, I choose to reflect. And if you've already started mastering this practice, comment, I seek wisdom over anger. Your insights and experiences help build a stronger, wiser community. Let's grow together, shall we? 4. Let go of the need for anger. Reclaim your inner freedom. Once you acknowledge that anger often arises from within, the next step is to stop seeking reasons to justify it. Not every annoyance deserves your energy. Not every inconvenience is an attack. The more you feed anger, the more it demands, until it consumes you entirely. But what if you simply let it go? Think about it. How often do we turn minor frustrations into major grievances? Imagine standing in a long supermarket queue. The person ahead of you suddenly leaves to grab another item, extending your wait. Your patience starts to wane. Frustration bubbles up. But pause. Does this truly harm you? Or are you choosing to make it personal? A deep breath, a shift in perspective, and suddenly it's nothing more than a few extra minutes of stillness in your day. Or consider this. You meticulously plan a family gathering, putting in effort to create a perfect evening, but a relative arrives late without notice. Disrespectful? Perhaps. But is that their true intent? Could there be a reason, traffic, an emergency, simple forgetfulness? If you assume the worst, anger will come easily. But if you assume the best, peace remains yours. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. When you stop assigning malice to every disruption, you gain a clarity that others never will. A strong mind is unshaken by minor disturbances. It doesn't seek conflict where none exists. Reframing your thoughts is an act of self-mastery. When a colleague interrupts you in a meeting, resist the impulse to react with frustration. Instead, recognize the moment as an opportunity to exercise patience, to maintain your composure, to lead by example. Every challenge is a test, every irritation a chance to prove your strength. But more importantly, ask yourself, do I really want to hand over control of my emotions to someone else? Because that's what anger does. It makes you a prisoner of circumstance, allowing the world to dictate your peace. And the truth is, most of the things we get angry about are simply not worth it. Letting go of unnecessary anger isn't weakness. It is power. It is choosing freedom over burden, clarity over chaos. The next time frustration rises within you, stop and ask, is this truly worth my peace? More often than not, the answer will be no, and in that moment, you will feel something greater than anger. You will feel liberation. 5. The silent strength, embracing the power of patience. Once you let go of the habit of seeking reasons to be angry, your mind begins to settle. But to truly master anger, you need something deeper, patience. It is patience that stands between impulse and wisdom, between regret and understanding. A moment of restraint can change everything. When anger flares, the instinct is to react immediately. But think about the last time you lost your temper. Did your quick response bring resolution, or did it only add fuel to the fire? More often than not, the words spoken in anger become the very things we wish we could take back. Seneca understood this well when he wrote, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." A single pause, even for a breath, can be the difference between chaos and clarity. Consider Abraham Lincoln, a man known for his unshakable patience. Whenever he was furious with someone, he would write them a scathing letter, pouring every bit of frustration onto the page. But he never sent them. Instead, he would set them aside, allowing his emotions to cool before making a decision. Many of these letters remained unsigned, marked simply with the words, "Never sent." His ability to wait, to let emotions pass before taking action, preserved relationships and allowed him to lead with wisdom rather than impulse. Patience is not weakness, it is the highest form of control. To practice it, start small, pause before you speak, count to 10, take a deep breath. If frustration lingers, write down your thoughts as Lincoln did, then walk away before acting on them. With time, you will see that many things that once angered you no longer hold power over your mind. As the Bible states, "He who is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who is quick-tempered exalts folly." To be patient is not to ignore problems. It is to ensure that your actions stem from wisdom, not emotion. The next time anger rises, choose to wait. You will find that in patience there is power, and in power there is peace. 6. The strength in laughter, mastering self-deprecating humor. In Stoicism, humor, especially the ability to laugh at yourself, is a quiet rebellion against anger. It is a shield, not of resistance, but of lightness, diffusing tension before it can take root. When faced with provocation, self-deprecating humor shows that you remain untouched, unshaken. You turn what could have been an insult into a moment of wit and resilience. Imagine this. You spill coffee on your shirt at work. A colleague smirks, trying out a new fashion statement. Instead of fuming or feeling embarrassed, you smile and say, "Absolutely, I'm revolutionizing coffee-stained couture." Suddenly, what could have been a moment of awkwardness becomes a shared laugh, an opportunity to show that small inconveniences don't dictate your mood. This is not about avoiding mistakes, it's about showing that you refuse to be defined by them. Molière once wrote, "A wise man is superior to any insults which can be put upon him, and the best reply to unseemly behavior is patience and moderation." When someone attempts to mock you, humor turns the tables. If someone makes a remark about your appearance, instead of reacting with irritation, you could say, "I like to think of my face as proof that personality matters more than looks." The moment you stop taking insults seriously, they lose their power over you. Beyond diffusing tension, Self-deprecating humor strengthens relationships. Imagine a friend teasing you about your oversized meal. Instead of getting defensive, you grin and reply, "Gotta prepare for my world record eating attempt." What could have been a jab now fosters camaraderie, reminding us that humor is not just a defense, it's a bridge. But there's something deeper here. Laughing at yourself requires acceptance. It means acknowledging your imperfections without being controlled by them. And when you learn to be kinder to yourself, forgiving others becomes easier too. So ask yourself, can I turn this mistake into a funny story? By doing so, you not only release anger, but you gain something far more powerful, inner freedom. As Chuck Chakrapani wisely said, "No one can hurt you unless you let them. You are hurt the moment you believe you are." Humor is the refusal to grant others that power. Instead of reacting with rage, learn to laugh, not as a way to mask emotions, but as a way to rise above them. Because in laughter, there is strength. In humor, there is peace. 7. The company you keep, choosing peace over chaos. One of the most effortless yet powerful ways to master anger is by carefully choosing the people you surround yourself with. Emotions, like fire, are contagious. Spend enough time around negativity, and you will feel its weight creeping into your mind. But surround yourself with those who bring wisdom, patience, and understanding, and you will find that anger struggles to take hold. Imagine this. You're at work, and a colleague publicly criticizes your efforts. Do you allow anger to flare up, or do you maintain your composure, responding with grace? If you are surrounded by people who encourage you, who remind you of your worth, that frustration fades. But if those around you thrive on gossip, conflict, and negativity, your peace will always be under siege. Harvard researcher Dr. David McClelland found that the people you spend the most time with determine up to 95% of your success or failure in life. Seneca understood this long before modern science confirmed it. To master your emotions, be mindful of those you keep close. Yet, life rarely offers the luxury of perfect company. There will always be those who provoke, colleagues who thrive on drama, friends who fuel conflict, or even family members whose words sting more than they heal. Cutting ties isn't always the answer, but setting boundaries is. Epictetus advised, "Keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." Not everyone deserves unrestricted access to your mind. Ask yourself, are the people around me making me stronger or more prone to anger? Too often, we maintain relationships out of habit or fear of loneliness, not realizing the emotional cost. But what is the price of your peace? If someone constantly drains your energy, fills your thoughts with resentment, or stirs your anger, it may be time to redefine their place in your life. Even beyond relationships, curiosity itself can be a hidden enemy of tranquility. Have you ever felt the urge to eavesdrop on a conversation about you? Or scrolled through someone's messages, seeking reassurance but finding only insecurity? These small acts of curiosity seem harmless, but they can poison your mind with doubt and unnecessary anger. True peace comes not just from choosing the right people, but also from choosing which battles, even which thoughts, deserve your attention. Surround yourself with those who inspire growth, who remind you of your higher self. True friends do not fuel your anger, they help extinguish it. And when you cultivate an environment of wisdom and warmth, you will find that anger, no matter how fiercely it burns, loses its power in the presence of understanding. Thank you for being part of this journey. Now, take a moment to reflect. Are the people around you lifting you up, or pulling you into negativity? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you're committed to surrounding yourself with the right people, comment, "I choose wisdom." And if you're working on setting better boundaries, comment, "I protect my peace." Your growth inspires this community. Let's continue this path to mastery together, shall we? 8. The power of grace. Choose to heal, not to punish. Even when we surround ourselves with the right people, conflict is inevitable. We will be hurt, disrespected, misunderstood. But in those moments, we face a choice to retaliate or to rise above it. Anger calls for punishment, for revenge. Wisdom calls for healing. And the one you choose will shape not only your peace, but your character. Marcus Aurelius offered a timeless truth. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. When someone wrongs you, striking back does not make you stronger. It makes you their mirror, caught in the same cycle of anger and reaction. But when you choose to rise above, you prove that their actions do not control you. You remain the master of your own soul. Imagine this. You're driving, and someone recklessly cuts you off. For a moment, fury surges. You want to honk, to yell, to retaliate. But will that truly bring relief? Or will it only escalate the tension, pulling you into unnecessary conflict? Instead, take a breath. Remind yourself, "I have been careless before too." The moment you let go, the weight of anger disappears. Now consider a different scenario. A colleague, overwhelmed by stress, snaps at you unfairly. The instinctive response: coldness, irritation, a harsh remark in return. But what if instead you paused and asked, "You seem off today. Is everything all right?" Perhaps they are struggling, burdened with pressures you cannot see. Your choice to meet hostility with understanding not only diffuses the moment, but strengthens your own inner discipline. Marcus Aurelius urged, "Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself, what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize?" This self-reflection breeds patience. We have all been unkind. We have all made mistakes. To expect perfection from others while excusing our own flaws is hypocrisy. Instead, let your understanding of your own imperfections soften your judgment of others. But choosing healing does not mean tolerating mistreatment. If someone continuously disrespects you, setting boundaries is not punishment, it is self-respect. True healing sometimes means walking away, not in anger, but in quiet strength. It means protecting your peace without carrying resentment. Ask yourself, do I want to be controlled by my anger, or do I want to live freely? Each time you choose healing, you make a statement: I am unshaken. I am not ruled by others' actions. This is not weakness, it is power. The kind of power that transforms not only yourself, but those around you. Let this be your mantra. I choose compassion, because in the end, anger burns, but grace endures. 9. The art of stillness, calming your mind through music and creativity. Anger, if left unchecked, is a fire that consumes tranquility, but if channeled correctly, it can become something else entirely, a source of creativity, a doorway to peace. When the mind is overwhelmed, art and music have the power to guide it back to stillness. Imagine this. You've just had a heated argument. Your thoughts race, your heart pounds, and frustration surges through you like a storm. But instead of letting anger take control, you sit down and play a piece of instrumental music. The first few notes feel distant, but as the melody unfolds, something shifts. The tension within begins to dissolve. each note a ripple in a calming stream. You close your eyes and for a moment, the world stands still. Music doesn't just silence anger, it brings you back to yourself. Art offers the same refuge. A friend once told me how, after an exhausting day, they turned to painting. At first, their brushstrokes were chaotic, mirroring the turmoil inside. But as they continued, the lines softened, the colors grew warmer, and by the time they stepped back, it wasn't just the canvas that had changed. It was them. What began as an act of expression became an act of healing. Epictetus once said, "It is not events that disturb people, it is their judgments concerning them." The things that make us angry are not always the problem, it is how we choose to respond. Art, music, and other creative expressions help us shift our focus, allowing us to replace anger with clarity. This isn't just philosophy, it's science. Studies on music and art therapy reveal that engaging in creativity reduces stress, stabilizes emotions, and fosters deeper self-awareness. A therapist once shared how participants in music and painting workshops didn't just learn to manage anger, they discovered new dimensions of themselves. Sometimes, the simple act of creating can teach you more about your emotions than words ever could. So when anger rises within you, what will you do? Will you feed it, or will you pause and seek stillness? A song, a brushstroke, a quiet moment with a book, each is a path away from frustration and towards serenity. The choice is yours. 10. Turning inward, the path to mastering yourself. After finding calm in art, music, and the world around you, the final step in mastering anger leads inward, to reflection, self-awareness, and growth. This is not just about controlling emotions, it is about understanding them, learning from them, and transforming them into wisdom. Anger itself is not the enemy, it is a signal, a whisper from within that something is misaligned. Left unchecked, it burns slowly, consuming peace, poisoning clarity. But when acknowledged and examined, anger becomes a teacher. It reveals your triggers, your expectations, and even your deepest fears. Ask yourself, why am I angry? Am I reacting to the moment or to something deeper? What truly matters right now? These questions, when answered honestly, do more than calm you down. They reveal the roots of your emotions. Imagine this: you're driving in heavy traffic, and suddenly a car cuts you off. Instinctively, frustration rises, your grip on the wheel tightens. But what if, instead of reacting, you pause? What if you take a deep breath and consider, could they be rushing to an emergency? Did they even see me? In that moment, logic replaces impulse. The weight of irritation lifts, and you realize that anger changes nothing except the peace you choose to surrender. Seneca offered a powerful practice. We should every night call ourselves to an account. What infirmity have I mastered today? What passions opposed? What temptation resisted? What virtue acquired? Keeping an emotional journal is one way to follow this wisdom. Write down what made you angry, what triggered the reaction, and how you responded. Even rate your anger on a scale from 0 to 100. Over time, patterns emerge. The same frustrations appear, the same lessons repeat, until you begin to see them before they take control. But reflection is not just about recording, it is about learning. Imagine a colleague criticizing you harshly in a meeting. The sting of anger is immediate. Your mind races to defend itself. But instead of reacting, you ask, is there truth in their words? If so, can I use it to grow? If not, Why should their opinion disturb my peace? This shift from blame to introspection turns anger into an opportunity. Life will always test your patience. The world will give you reasons to be angry. But if you train yourself to pause, to reflect, to look inward before reacting outward, anger will no longer rule you. It will no longer cloud your mind or dictate your actions. And in that mastery, you will find true peace, not by avoiding emotions, but by understanding them. Mastering anger, mastering yourself. Anger is not something to be feared, nor is it something to be blindly indulged. It is a force, one that can destroy or refine, weaken or strengthen, depending on how we choose to wield it. Through patience, self-awareness, humor, and the company we keep, we learn that anger is not an enemy, but a teacher. It reveals where we are most vulnerable, where our expectations betray us, and where we still have room to grow. But mastery does not happen in a single moment. It is a daily practice, a choice made again and again to rise above impulse, to respond with wisdom rather than reaction. Some days you will succeed. Other days, anger will get the better of you. That is the nature of progress. What matters is that you continue, that you keep refining, keep reflecting, keep learning. Because the more you understand yourself, the less control the world has over you. So the next time anger rises, ask yourself, does this deserve my peace? Is my response guided by reason or emotion? And most importantly, what can I learn from this? In that moment, you will find strength, not in rage, but in restraint, not in control over others, but in control over yourself. If this journey resonates with you, if you seek to master not just anger but the art of living itself, subscribe to Stoic Echoes US. Here we dive deep into the wisdom of the Stoics, unraveling timeless lessons that bring clarity, strength, and purpose to modern life. Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me which insight spoke to you the most, or how you've learned to navigate anger in your own life. Let's continue growing together, one lesson at a time. And remember, true power is not found in the chaos of anger, but in the quiet mastery of self.